Linda Ciero, the curator. Beside me is the school's facilitators, Jacq Chorlton, Rachael, that's who you'll be dealing with. So the project timeline, entries are open already, and entries close on the 17th of May at 4 p.m. By the 31st of May, the schools will be notified if their entry has been successful. And by the 5th of August, a high quality photo of artworks or a small component of the work, it doesn't have to be the whole work, you may not be anywhere near finished by that point. Just a small part of the work is very acceptable for the catalogue. The 20th of September, you need to provide a final photo of the work complete. Wednesday, the 23rd of October, is the install day. From 6:30 in the morning until 12. You have to be installed by 12:30. If you're not installed by 12:30, the work won't be judged. So you can install, before school. Similarly, on de-install, it's the same. It's from 7 a.m. So you could de-install before school without an issue at all.
So you send out you can book in.
Yeah, book in a time beforehand with me.
So the actual ceremony is on Saturday the 26th, and that's when the awards are announced. And I believe that you can take 2 students, is that correct?
2 teachers, 2 students are allowed to the awards ceremony.
Yep.
But what you need to do is actually have photo permission forms signed for the children before that ceremony.
Mm-hmm. And that's all sent out?
Yeah, it's all sent out prior.
Yeah, okay.
And so they've got the exhibition dates there and then the de-install date.
And you're going to have to put in a detailed description and images of the final design in written form, drawn form. But obviously, when you submit the entry form, your sculpture will barely be started. And the description, I think later down in this PowerPoint, it shows you the sort of drawings that we're looking for.
Okay, so selection and judging. What the selection panel looking for is a thoughtful and creative use of recycled and repurposed components, clear and detailed concept design, and we'll as you say, we'll cross that a bit later, succinct description of work, succinct construction and installation information on how the work is secured, overall strength of vision and concept, and consideration of public safety and interaction. That's a big one. Public safety, and also whether the work is interactive or not, because it needs to be very, very strong if it is going to be interactive, to withstand the curiosity of the public and children, for that matter.
Yeah, it's a very polite way of putting it.
Yeah. So inspiration may come from materials, the site or the environment, humour or a pun, or a deeper meaning to create thought and conversation. And usually have a mix of all of that. Yeah. So this is a work by Jacq some years ago.
A few years back,
Yeah. So we're talking about how important it is to be really clear in your description of the work and in your sketches. So it should include every detail you're going to intend. As you can see on the right, there's really not much there that the selection committee to look at and just see exactly what you're intending, whereas the one on the left, it gives you much more detail, measurements, that kind of thing. So that's really helpful.
I would say it's sort of measurements, materials and fixings, how you're going to fix it.
Yes, exactly.
To the ground.
Yeah. So include in your design how elements of the sculpture are secured, how you will address sharp elements, turning sharp edges inwards, such as chicken wire, that kind of thing. The correct size of the work, so it should be 1 by 1 metre at the base and no more than 2 metres high. So any soft elements which can be touched by small children, you've got to look at in case they can cause injury.
Safety purposes don't include any sharp elements at eye height. So any little things on wire, any edges at all really. Everything's got to be curled over. Loose elements such as sand or litter, we don't have. I think someone was going to put a mirror last year on the ground, but we had to get rid of that.
Well, that's just
someone to stand on it.
Going to work.
And hanging elements, we can't have things flying around because obviously people can get whipped in the face with long bits of plastic.
And not only that, visually, aesthetically, it doesn't work. So you've really got to keep them for just 2 centimetres only. That way they won't turn over on themselves.
I mean, we have had jellyfish in the past that have the long tails, but then they've been tied up at the bottom to something that held it in place. And the really important, the footprint of the work, not to be over 1 metre square, which includes you can't have a 2 metre long by 20 centimetre
You can't
piece.
change those.
No, it's got to be within that metre square. So some of the schools that we've worked at before, they tend to do a masking tape square on the floor in the classroom to just have there as reference to work within, which is really handy.
And so it works at a low level, are likely to be accidentally walked on by visitors, causing daily damage. So that means that we'd be calling you daily to come and fix it. So it's not something we want to do. Here's an example of a work from 2020 by Endeavour Education Support Centre. It was a very popular work, as I remember.
Interactive, but no sharp pieces, so people could sit on it, but they're not going to be poked in the back when they sit on it.
Judges will consider the idea or concept, how it was being refined and developed, and the creativity used to realise the work. They'll consider the responsive use of material and how well the construction is fabricated, hidden or less obvious symbols creating a sense of wonder or discovery, scale and position of the artwork and how the public view the work, the statement about the work and the materials, techniques and the process used, environmental message or theme, the impact and engagement with the public, and whether it's tactile and the use of textures, contrasts and colour.
Okay, so think about how the sculpture fits into the coastal environment and using the location as a reference. I think pretty much every year there's coastal exhibits. So there's something with fish, mermaids, jellyfish all the time, but they actually fit in really well down there, I think. And does it use the outdoor elements, for example, the sun reflecting on the colours and light through the work, or wind producing sound? Does it connect to the earth or sand? Whether the sculpture interacts with its audience, does it make you stop and think? Does it promote an environmental message? Can you sit on it, crawl or look through it? Can you walk around it? Can you touch it or play with it? And then looking at the can you sit on it, crawl or look through it, again, interactive, needs to be hardy to withstand the curiosity of the public.
Yeah.
I know last year there was a cage and you could stand in it and have your photo taken with the penguin, but we just had to make sure everything all on the inside of the cage, there was nothing that was going to poke anyone.
Yeah. Even the smallest of children.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the drawing you saw earlier. This is the work.
That's that
from
piece.
it. Yeah, that is that work. There's also an earlier work of Jacq.
Very early.
In 2010.
So thinking about the engineering and practicalities for making and installing it, thinking about the size of your piece, so not making something ginormous in the classroom and you get to the end and you can't actually fit it through the door. It's quite little things like that. There was a school one year that they had a small door and that was a problem.
Some ideas might be abandoned as you go along, and others that are more practical might replace that. But if you make huge changes, you need to notify me and Jacq and Rachael.
But that's part of the sculpture process. Yeah. And for the students, it's a good thing to come up against problems and being able to solve those problems. I think that's a good lesson in sculpture building.
It is, it's problem solving, really,
Absolutely.
Isn't it? And that's really good for the kids too. It's installed on the grass at the school's exhibition on Churchill Park. And so the guy ropes are not, to actually get it in the ground, guy ropes are not practical as they present a tripping hazard. So bases can be pegged down with tent pegs.
So this piece here was by a local school and it ended up being a giant UFO. So at the bottom, the stool has got a chandelier on it and at the bottom were 3 PVC pipes that that went into it. So it's like a tripod, and then we drilled holes into the bottom and just tent pegged the PVC pipe into the ground. So that's there's a few different methods you can fix things into the ground. Concrete in a bucket's really good with screw eyes into the base. Anything that you can peg through little holes are good. So that's it here with the tripod with the PVC pipe. So that's how we were to fix it into the ground with the armature. They need to support the structural integrity of the artwork in the wind, the rain, interaction by the public. I think it's overlooked as to actually how windy it gets down there. We say to schools every year it gets very windy down there, and until you're actually down there in the wind, it is incredible, the wind down there. So some standalone objects make excellent armatures, and materials can be attached to them. For example, an exercise bike, obviously still got to be within the metre square. And other armatures need to be made. An umbrella stand can work with a pole. They're really good, the old cast iron umbrella stands that you can fix round, and no wobble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think keeping it simple. Some people who haven't been in Castaways before, they tend to overthink it and put too many elements into it, and really make it life difficult for themselves, because all those works have to be secured and that kind of thing. So it's best to keep it simple.
It seems there is definitely a lot of information that comes out, and I think for schools it can be quite overwhelming, but it isn't at all. When you break it down, you're creating something to stand in the elements for 10 days that we can just peg into the ground. And actually we did have a problem with this one. When it went down onto the beach, they actually hand stitched all the packets onto the mesh, onto the black mesh, and we ended up having to put a bird net over the top just to stop the rubbish blowing down.
I might add at this point that that no commercial brands are allowed on the work or around it. So all sorts of brands have to be covered up. Keep the heavy part at the base of the work. So this is a totem sculpture by Ciero from a while ago. So the red heart is approximately 15 kilos and is placed very low down on the pole. Materials must be weatherproof and attached securely so they can withstand strong winds. Connecting materials to each other on the armature is important for ensuring the integrity of the artwork. For larger items, multiple fixing points will be required. It can include cable ties, pop rivets, wire, metal staples. Avoid using glues because they just don't last in the weather.
Especially plastic.
If there's any moisture or, and there will be overnight even, glues just don't last. Okay, now this is a work by Rachael, which was, what year was that?
Last year.
No, last year, yeah. 2023, so this is Rachel's work in Castaways last year. So you can see the process there from the sketch, detailed sketch, progress of making the work to the finished work on the beach.
I mean, I would like to just sort of like to say that in the initial sketch, I had the idea of using milk bottles opened up to wrap around the chicken wire, but then in actually working with it, it was like it wasn't going to work. So I had to find a different solution. So that's where the spoons came into play. But it didn't change really what it was going to look like in the end. I think it enhanced it. It was just the evolution of working with it, problem solving, a bit like going back to what we were saying earlier about the problem solving element. What you have in your mind or what the children have in their minds and how you are working with it, it might not actually work. So you do have to sort of like go with the flow, go with the flow a little bit with it.
But those spoons look great, didn't
they?
They look terrific.
And actually created a lot of curiosity as well. And everybody was kind of like, we're looking at it and it's like, oh, that's spoons. And then the fish was like, oh, that's can ring pulls and things like that. So, and then it was just a case of, well, what else was used? And it just kind of like created a lot of discussion about the materials that we used.
Where did you get those from?
Rockingham Hospital donated it.
Because
they donated them to us the previous year with the single-use plastic ban.
Right. Some recycled materials are easy to source, like milk bottles and aluminium cans and steel cans, plastic bottles and lids. But there are other places that you can source materials. But I personally think it's great for the students to find and source the materials as much as they can themselves, because then it becomes a community project.
Oh yeah, like with the resource with the plastic bread tags, that was a community effort with getting them
she
from
sourced
the
a whole
community.
lot of those. Yeah, and that was for this one, which was the year before, a joint work that Rachael did with Sharon Baxter. Once again, you can see a detailed drawing, and that's obviously at the conceptual stage.
That was the beginning, and then it didn't look like that when we put it in the
it
ground.
It didn't look like that. It looked something like that in the end. But, that year, both Rachael and Sharon were selected for the mentor program, the Curator's mentor program. So, although they had a lot of ideas, first big sculpture you'd made, a lot of ideas about what they were going to do, in the end, it was slightly different, wasn't it?
Slightly different, but it was so much more effective than what the initial idea was. Yeah.
So this is what it looked like in the end. So it wasn't a jumble of colours. It was all white in the end. It was beautiful. So you can see how things can change. And if you want to change things dramatically, you need to talk to Jacq or Rachael, and they'll send that information on to me. Contact details there for Jacq and Rachael. Who's been creating work forever.
Forever, yeah. You're a Castaways
staple, aren't you? She's been in Castaways many times. And
won it many times.
And Rachael, she's been selected for the Rockingham Art Prize this year or last year?
Oh no, that was the last time was 2019.
Oh, okay, 2019. She does art classes and workshops for all ages of children, and last year she led the guided schools.
The schools guided
tours. And will this year as well.
Yeah, I'll be doing that one too.
As we talked about resources, you might well have heard of Remeda already. A lot of schools do use them. There's also a new one we have this year, Rockingham Beach Cleans. So they pick up stuff from the beach. Contact details there for them.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Bet they find some amazing
things. They contacted
on the
us at the end of last year, and I think it might be really interesting.
Yeah.
Artist in residence, if you want an artist to help, contact Jacq and we can get a local artist at your cost, of course, to help.
But we'll be out. So Rachael and I will be out to the schools visiting several times. So we can definitely come and help you. Yeah. Even from the beginning, with a bit of brainstorming.
Yeah, you're not on your own at all. But if the school decided they wanted to have an artist in residence, we can certainly put you onto people. There's a reimbursement for each school of $100 for a representative to attend installation and de-installation. And that might pay for a trailer. Or, whatever to get the work there. There's all our contact details. We look forward to receiving your entries.